Don't chase leads, build a database for life. Most loan officers are grinding to find the next deal, but Nate Fain is here to show you how to create an ecosystem of people who know you, who like you, who trust you, and come back to you time and time again. So Nate, thanks for being here today, man. Was there a moment, do you feel like, where this idea of like building a long-term database really came and it clicked for you?
I wouldn't say it was like one specific moment, but I will say there is one moment that sticks out to me that
Okay.
completely changed my way of thinking. I can't even remember who told me this, but I remember hearing this over and over again. And someone was talking about my social media following and just followers on social media. And they referred to that as my database. And I thought about that, and that completely changed the way that not only I looked at social, but the way that I started to strategically try to build my database on all different kinds of fronts. Just the idea that social is kind of your database too, but then it's very top of funnel, right? So that completely flip-flopped the way that I see social media, but then also just like building your database in general.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really interesting point. Is like that is your database, is like, and you're able to connect with them all the time on social. Do you know like of a deal, like maybe just something that popped out that has come from your database, whether it's social or email marketing, that just really came out of that?
I've been in the industry for almost 13 years now. So I'm blessed that I am to the point where I get like lots of repeat business. However, the sales cycle right now in this market is so crazy long. I didn't really know it at the time when I closed this deal, but I had a deal close last year that had been in my pipeline since 2019. And I think we all know how like the last few years have gone. It just have kind of been a blur. Every 6 months, I like to look back and see, where did my business come from? How did that originate? And I was looking at that one in particular. And most of the time, the sales cycle might be up to like a year, something like that. And I was like, man, this person has been in my ecosystem for 5 years trying to buy their first house. And that to me was also kind of a wake up call, like, hey, dude, you have to stay in front of these people. I think one of the things with like 2020 and 2021, like transactions were happening so fast, and it almost tricked people in the mortgage and real estate space of like, oh, it's almost a little instant gratification here. When in reality, that's not normally how this works, right? Like that wasn't necessarily a normal market. There's probably a healthy medium in between where we were and where we are now. Even just having that person in my ecosystem for that long, trying to buy their first house. This wasn't a second home investment property. Like this wasn't their third, fourth home. This was their first home. And I was there for 5 years. I feel like we ran numbers for 5 years and then we finally got it closed.
Yeah. So it's almost like not a lead, it's a relationship that you develop with these individuals, right? Or families.
Yep.
And I think that's a good distinction. And you and I had chatted before this, and you kind of mentioned that, right? It's not about leads, it's about relationships. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, in that person particularly is a really good example of that. I had closed their brother. The thing was either their brother or their sister, who they had referred to me after they got pre-approved with me. So I got a deal from that client, that prospect, even before I closed their own deal. So I always say, like, you never know who knows who. So if you focus on building relationships and almost hoarding, collecting relationships, it's no different than like networking, right? That's all networking is seeing who all you need to know, seeing who all you need to meet, and interacting with them. If you keep building those relationships, I believe in mortgage real estate karma. Like it just keeps coming back around. There's no better referral than someone who says, hey, this is Nate. He's my mortgage loan advisor. He did awesome. Like, I know you're buying a house next month. Like, you got to talk to Nate.
Yeah. And that's a really important distinction. And I think a mindset that I've learned from you and from others like you is that it's not about building a database of leads. It's about building a database of relationships, like you said. And when I think you have that mindset shift, you treat every relationship differently. And in this case, it led to a deal already, right? So you didn't get the one that you thought, but you got another one, and that just, it spurs and gets bigger and bigger from there. So I love that mindset. You're teaching us a lot with that. And, I think it's incredibly important even in the slower market, because there is no instant gratification, like you said, because a lot of people can't just buy a house immediately. How has like been in this slower market then? Have you changed your mindset or shifted some strategies to help with this?
It's not necessarily there's been like a big shift there. It's more of really injecting a ton of patience, but then also understanding that, let's say that I go take 30 applications in a month. I could probably, let's say that I could get 15 of those pre-approved. Of those 15, you might be able to get, say, 7 of them closed in the next 60 days. I'm making up numbers here. Where that's probably changed in the last couple of years is like you could probably take all those numbers and cut them in half,
Yeah.
where it's taking so much more activities, taking so much more applications, it's taking so much more people, bringing people into your ecosystem to get the same amount of production that you might have been accustomed to in 2020, 2021, even 2022. So what I've learned over the past few years is it's so important now more than ever to get people into your ecosystem, your face in front of theirs, when they are at the point of thought. I think that's what one thing that Rebecca has said before that like kind of clicked. Like you want to reach people at the point of thought. Like, hey, I kind of want to buy a house. Instantly, they're going to go try to find that information, right? I want to be that source of information. If I'm a loan officer, realtor, like I want to be that source of information. I want them to think of me as soon as they think of a mortgage or a real estate, and then they go and they reach out like, okay, I'm going to text Nate. I'm going to Google some stuff, and then I'm going to text Nate and verify it, or just say, hey, I want to set up a meeting.
Yeah, and you want them to remember your name at the is the top, right? It's like, oh, who's that guy who loves golf a lot? I
Yeah,
see him all the time. It's like they can't remember your name. They're like, oh,
right,
I'll just Google it, right? And
right.
so being there at that point of thought is really important. I was actually just over the weekend browsing an open house and talked to this realtor locally, and she's been in the business for 40 years. So we had the same exact conversation, and she was saying that like everybody knows her in this neighborhood, in
Mhm.
this area. But she said sometimes people still forget me. And that's why, after 40 years, she's really going all in on social media to stay top of mind,
Mhm.
because that's where the people are. Where you need to be remembered
Mhm.
is like in their face all the time. I love that, dude. That's good. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about getting contact info, because I feel like this is one of the hardest things for people as they're building a database. So let's say you're at an event, or maybe from your social media. How do you get that from like, oh, I like Nate, I want to work with him, to now you can contact them, or you have permission to contact them off of just showing up on their feed all the time?
So a lot of ways that I do that and our team does that is there's an exchange of value, so to speak. So we're giving them some sort of knowledge or education or an invitation to something, some kind of event that we're holding, something like that, to where in return, if you want to get access to this information, if you want to get access to this education, there's got to be an exchange there. So you give me your name, a phone number, your email address. Like, okay, now I've got your data, and you've got this thing that I've spent who knows a couple 3 hours working on, right? I mean, think about how many times you put in your name, email address, and phone number right now. I think people are kind of numb to it at this
Yeah.
point. So I think that if we had this conversation probably 6-7 years ago, I think that we'd be like, oh, I'm not going to give you my information. I think people are probably a little bit more accustomed to it now. One of the biggest mistakes that I made when I was co-hosting open houses, and I see a lot of agents and loan officers do this now, is I would think that, okay, we're going to hold this open house and we're going to sell this house today. Like that's our focus right now. It's like, we're going to sell this house and I'm going to get a mortgage lead today for
Yeah.
this house. And then when people wouldn't show up, or if people were just coming by and they're the neighbors, they're tire kickers, whatever, I would get discouraged. Like, well, no one's trying to transact today. Shame on me. Like I'm trying to rope somebody in of 30 years of debt, like in what I've known them for an hour. But then where I missed was I didn't start collecting their information. I didn't start collecting their data to where I could then follow up. So I wasn't even able to follow up. I was handing them a business card and saying, hey, give me a call when you're ready. Well, now I'm not controlling the transaction. Now I'm not controlling that relationship flow or anything, so to speak. And then I started like, okay, I'm going to have a sign in sheet and I'm going to be giving away something, whatever it is. That way that I can then follow up with them, and then I've got them in my ecosystem. I can market to them. I can ask them who they know. I can ask them for referrals, but I have to have their contact information to do that. Me passing out a business card does not do that for me.
Right. When you leave it up to chance, it's never going to work out. Right.
Mhm.
If you leave it up to the person on the other end, you're not going to get that call back. Right. I'm sure you handed
Exactly.
out hundreds or thousands of business cards and never got a call back. Something as simple as having a sign in sheet.
Yep.
I love what you said, though, is like exchange of value.
Mhm.
Right. You heard that just the open house thing you're just saying is, all right, I'm going to give away something really cool to like get your contact info. Right. let's focus on maybe some marketing tactics because that's cool. And I'd be curious, like maybe some of your best giveaways that actually gets people interested. But like a typical marketing strategy is you have a lead magnet, right? And then so you're giving that's the thing of value that then you're going to give to get that contact information back. What are some of your top lead magnets that you've done that others can maybe recreate in their own sphere of influence?
So specifically for loan officers, I mean, one of the most important ones that we've done is like a credit tip. So
Mm,
we have like a credit sheet and some best practices for credit, but then also, let's say someone does sign up for that, the exchange of value there is like, yeah, they're getting this cheat sheet, but then in that campaign, we're then sending them a drip campaign where we're giving them continuous credit tips, and we're
mm,
staying in front of them with those credit tips in the hopes that, okay, at one point they're going to have the correct credit score for us to be able to do a mortgage for them. Another one would be, hey, here's some stuff that you need to do when you need to go buy your first home, like a first time home buyer guide. So think of the problems that your customer avatar has and the questions that they have and the questions that they already ask you, and then start making sheets for it, make a handout for it. And then you can go deeper in some kind of email campaign where you're giving them even more tips, but loop them in with some kind of value there, some kind of something they have to have. And all having to do to get this information from a well-known advisor is to just give my email and my name and phone number. Like, yeah, I'll do that all day. So it's not like, hey, call me and we'll set up a call and we'll go over a consult. No, I don't want to call you. I just want the information. Just give me the information because I'm not ready to transact yet.
yeah. Yeah, you're just an educator and an entertainer at the
Right.
same time, right? Is it the same, basically the same tenants for on social versus in person? It's like, one and the same?
So, yes and no. One of the things that we've started concentrating a little bit more on is doing like webinars.
Mm,
So, think back to pre COVID where you might hold like a first time home buyer workshop, something like that. Same kind of thing. I used to get really discouraged if I would hold that and I'd kill a Saturday morning and there's three people that show up. And I talk to those three people. We have coffee. I've brought Panera bread and bagels in or whatever it is. I'm like, man, like these people aren't ready to transact. Like they're not ready. Like, so I wasted all this time in my mind to not get actual leads. However, if we do a webinar, I don't even care if they show up,
yeah,
because to sign up for the webinar, you have to provide your information. So I get your information and then I can market to you depending on what that like the topic of that webinar was. If it was a webinar about social media and my target audience was loan officers or realtors, now I can then start marketing them and talking to them about social media, educating them, providing value there so that they think of me when they think of social media. It's the same concept for when people are doing that for, hey, I want to buy my first rental property. What's going on with renovation loans? I want to think about possibly doing a debt consolidation loan. Like, how do I know if that's a good idea or not? Creating assets, creating bits of content so that in cheat sheets and guides and all this stuff that really between ChatGPT or Fiverr, you can create very quickly. You
very
give
quickly.
someone the information, they put it together, you put a little branding on top of it, and then you start to distribute it when the inquiries come in.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's easy, but you know what? You have to put some thought and, strategize into how to make it really good. And I know that you do a really phenomenal job at that. But yeah, so I think that my piece of advice just to add on top of that is don't do the absolute minimum for these, right? Actually provide something that's valuable that you would use if
Mhm.
you were on the other side, right? Don't just do a half job. Put some time and think about what you really want to be in there, what you need to educate, and then have ChatGPT flesh it out a little bit for you, right? Or pretty it up, but come with those ideas and you have them. You know exactly what to say. You get those questions all the time. You know what your consumers want. You know what your referral partners want. Create that great content, put it behind the gate, and then you get those contact information. So, are you then? I mean, thinking about all the different individuals you have in your database, then in your CRM. I know you use Salesforce, which is awesome. Are you segmenting your clients into different buckets and then following up with them in different ways?
Yeah, and I think that's super important too, because part of it is if you want an email, let's say specifically for like email marketing, if you're shooting them an email, go look and kind of take note of how you open emails and what emails you choose to open and don't open. And if you open it, you're like, this was not interesting nor valuable to me. So it's really important to segment them and then send them an email based on like how you've got them segmented. So let's say I'm attracting VA loans. I want to attract VA buyers. It doesn't make sense for me to then send them, hey, here are 5 FHA tips. No, I have to talk to them about something with VA loans. Same thing. So if I've got someone like, hey, I'm a first time home buyer, yada, yada, I don't want to send them content on VA loans because then it's like, well, I'm just part of a drip campaign. I'm just part of another marketing ploy here. Like I want to know that I've been heard. I know that like what my challenges are, and I want to know that the person that is sending that email is actually listening and caring about me.
I love that. Like if you're an investor with 800 credit and then I get credit tips from Nate on how to repair my credit, it's like, what, does he know nothing about me?
Yeah.
And why would I would unsubscribe from that immediately.
I feel cheap. I
Right?
feel used, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just like, but that's what's going to happen for you if you don't apply this strategy of segmenting your audience or your ecosystem here effectively. And so you spent all this time, all this money, all these efforts getting people into your ecosystem. You have to treat them properly once they're there. And I think that's almost just as important.
And what I would say is like if you're new to this game, new specifically like to email marketing game, an easy way to segment it is like, okay, the people that you already have like in, let's say it's your pre-approved pipeline. So like that's going to be, you're going to send them specific content. People that have already closed, you're going to send them specific content. So like that's a way that you can like segment the other lead magnets and everything else coming in where you're bringing people into your database and into your ecosystem. That takes a little bit more work, super worth it, but start with the people that you have in front of you right now to get your feet wet and then start building your database from there.
Yeah, that's so cool. We've got all these people in our ecosystem. We've got the capture their attention with lead magnets, and now it's they're in our ecosystem for life, and you have a relationship for life with them. How do you follow up with these people without sounding like a broken record or without annoying them? What are the different methods in which you are communicating with your ecosystem today?
So right now, most of the time, it's either through social media, through DMs, through following them and commenting on their content, engaging with them on social media. That's one, but that's not necessarily systematic. That's just like, okay, this is how I use social media. This is how I engage, and I use social media that way. Email is the one that I do the most, and one of the things like to keep in mind when you're emailing. Sharon said this one time at an event in Orange County, the one that I stood you up for. I'm sorry. He said, when you're sending out an email for email marketing, make sure it looks like an email.
Yeah.
So that completely changed some of the content that I'm putting out there with my email marketing. It's like, okay, now I have to make sure that it looks like something that I typed up. It looks like an actual email. And the faster that I can get my message across without them having to scroll or change anything on their phone, because most of them are looking at their phone, the better that email is going to perform.
The more personalized, the more kind of rough around the edges, right? I think there's been a lot of studies recently showing the more polished, the more like marketing-esque emails and communication, the less it gets open.
Back to that original question that you said. So how do I figure out like what I want to talk about and what am I actually sending them, right? So I try to look at all of the general marketing that I get and that I see out there in the marketplace and just do the exact opposite because everybody else is doing the same thing there. So I'm just going to do the exact opposite. My best advice for someone listening to this that hasn't started, think of one email a month of what you can send. And I don't necessarily want it to be holiday related. I don't want it to be necessarily that. I want it to be like, okay, here's 12 steps that you can take to get your credit on track for the next year. Something like that. Then let's take those 12 emails that you've got planned out, those 12 topics that you've got planned out. And a lot of them can be related. Don't reinvent the wheel over and over again. It's just little bitty different aspects of the same topic. Then combine that and we're going to send it an email every 2 weeks now. After 6 months, you've got a great sample size of like what's working, what's not, what have you learned. But if you're consistent for 6 months, then that next 6 months is going to come super easy.
By the way, each one of those emails sounds like a great video for social as well. multiplying your efforts by posting the same type of content in different formats. That's great advice. And after 6 months, you're right, you will be consistent. Kind of rounding things out here because we're about out of time, but a lot of people will say, "Yeah, this is totally what I want to do," but they don't actually do it. What do you have to
Mhm.
say to those people that just can't seem to find? They say they don't have the time for this. They don't have the
Mhm.
like. They don't have the skill set to do it. What do you say to those people?
I'm gonna be nice, but I'm also gonna be mean. If you say that you don't have time for it, that's because you're not being great with your time. You have to make time for it. This is what all of your competition is doing. This is what some of the big players with bigger marketing budgets than you have are doing. This is the new way of gaining business in the mortgage industry in 2025. You've seen how many mergers go down now? How many more of these mergers do we have to see go down for you to understand that everybody's chasing data? So why not play the same exact game that they're playing, but do what they can't do? And that is put the personal touch on it, put the human element in it. So dedicate some time. YouTube's free. ChatGPT is like what, 20 bucks a month, something like that.
Easy.
Between those two, you can go and learn a ton. But if you don't want to do that, then go look at your own inbox. Go see what other companies and other people are doing. Take those patterns, take those concepts, make it your own.
You can do this. And if you don't know how to do it, go follow Nate and just copy him. I say it tongue in cheek, but I mean, what I mean is follow people that you admire that have figured this out, and don't think that this isn't important because the average American spends 2.5 hours a day on social media, right? 90% of realtors, according to the National Association of Realtors, are on social media to get new leads. They're saying their highest quality leads are on social media. That's of all the different ways that they get leads. Social media. On the mortgage side, we're terrible at data and studies and things like that. The realtors haven't figured out.
Right.
But follow that trend line and you can recreate it for yourself. And there's so much business out there to be had. If you're afraid that you can't catch up to Nate or others like him who have tens of thousands of followers on TikTok and Instagram, etc., you can still do it. And you don't need that level of following to create a meaningful business. You only need what you have today, and we'll expand from there. Nate, any last parting thoughts or feelings?
I'm a big believer in trying to get people to go outside their comfort zone and just start. I want to encourage people to take 1 hour a week for the next month and dedicate some time to this, not only learning about it, but actually executing on it. And don't be afraid to suck. You're going to stink at it, bro. But go out there and do it. The more you do it, and the more that you're not scared to fail, the faster that you'll be really good at it. I mean, me personally, when I was trying to do a different CRM like 2 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. And I had my entire email list and I sent out what I thought was a test email and it went out to my entire database. And it was the most clown email ever. And so then I set out a follow up email. I was like, well, I don't know how to use this new CRM. And it said that in the email. And I got more engagement from that than anything else that I've ever sent out.
Hey, maybe that's not a bad idea just to do it.
Yeah.
Mess up. People love
Right.
that. Oops.
It's
Sorry.
human. It's human.
Rookie mistake. All right. Well, Nate, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience with us. Keep crushing it, my friend.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Until next time.